Hi and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This teaching is all about how to effectively manage physical pain using the power of your mind. If you are suffering from any kind of physical pain or discomfort or distraction, this teaching will help you. Okay, David, so let's go right back to basics for new listeners. What is the Taoist teaching on the connection between the physical body and the mind?
Thank you, Alex. And before I get into that, I'd like to say for those of you listening who are suffering intense physical pain, we acknowledge that this is extremely testing and challenging in your life. And what we'd like to do in this short video is just to give you some techniques that you can try to manage and reduce the pain a little more. So the first step is answering Alex's question. We have to separate the physical body from the mind. The number one thing when I work with people with acute pain, suffering acute physical pain, is they almost merge the two together, Alex, and they see themselves as the pain. They view themselves as the pain. There's no separation there. And so one of the techniques is to create a separation from your mind to your physical body.
Because, of course, if we believe that everything's interconnected and we are the physical pain, the problem is that can compound the pain. That can make it so much worse.
That's right, Alex. When these two are connected, the physical body and the mind, then when you are experiencing acute pain, then you almost get in a kind of a quicksand or a vortex, as one of my clients described it at me. And what happens is your physical body gets tighter, your muscles get tighter, and you're increasing the original pain. So the original pain is acute, very powerful, maybe even that you consider overpowering. But then by going tense and thinking of the negative, oh, this will never end, I can't solve this, I'll never get out of this. What you're doing, I'm just repeating what client said to me once, it's like you're throwing petrol on top of a fire. You're making a bad situation even worse. And doing this technique of creating a separation through a mindful meditation, being in control of your mind and making a separation that you are not your body. You are living in your body, but you do not have to be overwhelmed by that pain. You can create a separation, and that's what we're going to be talking about. That will give you the techniques, and then there'll be some meditations that we can recommend you, and maybe we'll have chance to do a little one today.
So David, is what you're saying by using the techniques that we're going to explain, we are moving away from, I guess, worsening the problem by creating the kind of tension of the mind, which creates a tension and an amplification of the pain in the body. And we're moving more towards a softening of the mind, a softening of our appreciation of who we are and what the pain is, so that it, I guess, softens down the pain. Somehow it dulls it down. It doesn't completely get rid of it, presumably.
No, I learned this in China. It's a very interesting Taoist meditation technique called being the observer. Think about that word. Instead of being in your body and experiencing the pain as your body, what you're doing is mentally trying to step away from your body and observing. So trying to find, this is how it worked with several clients, instead of just experiencing the overall pain sensation, just sit and watch and say, where is this pain originating from? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your abdomen? Is it in your leg? And try and observe just take a moment, and perhaps we can do this together now. So if you're doing this with me, if you are suffering from really acute pain as you're listening to me, just take a moment with me and just take a breath. And just observe the breath entering and leaving your body. As though you're standing outside of yourself and looking at your body. Observe your chest rising and falling. And see if you can quieten and deepen that breath. Now turn your gaze more towards the pain area, almost like ringlets on a trunk of a tree, and starting at the outer ringlet and slowly, ringlet by ringlet, go deeper into the center of the pain. But with each ringlet, breathe deeper. Drop your shoulders. Relax your body. Take another step deeper and calmer. And let those part of your body that's not affected by the pain deeply relax. So that's maybe your legs, your calves, your feet, maybe your arms or your shoulders. And let your breath go even deeper and calmer. And try for a few moments to go right into the center of the pain. And just sit with it. Calmly sit with it. And as if you're turning a gauge, a pain gauge, like a temperature gauge, slowly turn it down with each breath, with each deep relaxation, knowing that you can control. Just take a couple of breaths and we'll slowly come out of that little example, breathing and coming back into the room, but keeping your body relaxed. And on the meditation we'll do, I'll do it a lot more detail and take you through that much more carefully. But you can see the power of observing, of not letting it overpower you. Again, we're not diminishing, we're not trying to say you haven't got pain, but we're trying to give you some techniques that you don't have to be overwhelmed by the pain.
And David, we've already done a long form guided meditation teaching on becoming the observer, exactly that technique that David's just done a little snippet of. So I will put a link in the show notes to that meditation that will help you with this practice. And this mindfulness that we're talking about, this can help with a lot of different physical ailments. So not just pain, but also physical discomfort. I know you work with a lot of people who suffer from tinnitus, for example.
That's right. So unfortunately, at the moment, there's no cure for tinnitus. It is a management program. And in fact, we worked with a lot with the societies in the UK, the Tinnitus Society, teaching them how to create that separation, how to become the observer, not letting the tinnitus rule you, but you be in control of the tinnitus. And it can be extremely effective for things like tinnitus or for long-term niggly discomforts, maybe in your back or your legs or your shoulders, where you can, in meditation, you can relax the muscles around the pain. And instead of increasing the pain, what you're doing is you're like that idea of the circles of the tree trunk. you're going deeper and deeper, and you're isolating the center of the pain. So the other parts of your body around that area can more deeply relax. And as you practice, and surprisingly, very quickly people pick this up because it's a very powerful tool. Within a few weeks, you can start to manage your body and really reduce the level of pain. And this is so helpful. I can tell you where most of the clients get the most benefit means you can sleep better. Because the trouble is with pain, it disrupts your sleep patterns, and therefore your body is not so rested and your mind isn't so rested. So this simple technique of being the observer, again, it sounds a bit strange, but it's almost like you're stepping away from yourself and looking in at yourself, and you're not being drawn into identifying yourself with the pain. It's that separation.
So would you recommend then for people who are suffering and want some help that they listen to the becoming the observer guided meditation perhaps just before they go to sleep in bed at night to help them kind of with a more comfortable night's sleep?
I certainly would, Alex. And there's something else I would recommend. We've done a video on your Shen. So for me, being a Taoist, your Shen is your spirituality. Because again, what a lot of my clients do, they stop seeing themselves as a spiritual being. They see themselves, as I said earlier, as the pain body. And when you step away, you can start to identify that you have immense power in that spiritual side of you. So we've done a meditation on connecting back to your Shen. I call it Shen, your spirituality. And when I'm talking about spirituality, I'm not talking about religion or angels or anything outside of you. I'm talking about you have something innate, something very powerful within you that's non-material, that does not get affected by the pain. And that's what I would call your Shen, your spirituality. And that spirituality is far more powerful than stronger than what we realize, because it's very rare we really get connected to it and start to use it. So when you go to sleep, as you say, perhaps you could listen to the Being the Observer video. And also perhaps listen to how you connect to your Shen. Because when you connect to that Shen, you're connecting to a source that's very inherent, that's much deeper and much more powerful than the pain. And that gives you the tools to be able to isolate the pain much more and to get on with your life, because you have an amazing ability that I would call Shen, that spirituality, that you can do far more than you even think. And I've seen some amazing changes in my client. Again, let me emphasize, I'm not saying this is magic. I'm not saying it takes the pain away. I'm not trying to say you haven't got very strong, intense pain. We're talking about a management program that you can practice for yourself, and you can find a technique that works for you on the basis that we're talking about, and following some of the meditations and using them as the guide that you can improvise yourself. That's what I encourage my clients to do. Use my guided meditation as the first few steps, and then start to improvise and make it work for you.
And would you say then, David, if when we have more time, just as we're about to go to bed, we can listen to the long form meditations, but in the daytime when we have to be getting on with our life, doing whatever jobs or work or activities that need doing, we can still, I guess, do two things. We can still do a very quick, almost like a 1-minute visualization of the becoming the observer. Once you've got used to that technique, I mean, you talked us through then a very short version of the becoming the observer meditation that took about 3 minutes, but we can do that if we just have a quiet moment, sitting quietly on the sofa, stepping out into the back garden, going to the toilets at work and sitting quietly for a couple of minutes, just to get back control of our mind, get back control of this observation focus on the pain.
That's right, Alex. I've got a lot of my information from my clients who've been suffering from chronic and intense pain for most of their lives. And what they tell me is that short snippet of meditation can really help when they have, I'll tell you what they say, an inkling that the pain is going to start to increase. And if you can get that meditation in very early, before the pain starts to grow, and lots of my clients say there's different parts of the day where the pain threshold rises and drops. And if they can come with that deep relaxation at the very beginning, what it's helped them to do is to reduce their medication. So when they do take their medication, it's far more powerful because it's working much better. And they can manage the ebb and flow, the peaks and troughs as during the day. And then for some clients, not for every client, I'm not trying to diagnose you if you're listening to this, but then they can do something that perhaps they've never done, a little bit more exercise, a little bit more stretching, a little bit more movement around. When they were very restricted and tense and all their muscles was tense, and even as something as lifting themselves out of a chair would be so painful that they wouldn't do it, that they can get up and give themselves a stretch. And you know, because you was part of that, we would go sometimes into old people's home and teach them Qigong whilst they're sitting. Do you remember that? While you're sitting as in your seat and just moving your arms and moving your muscles and stretching and breathing. And so just learning these simple techniques is not going to suddenly cure you, but it just gives you that little bit more freedom, that little bit more confidence that you can do a little bit more. And most importantly, it gives you a little bit more control. And that's how I'd like to finish. This is not a magic cure. This is hopefully giving you some techniques. Some will work, some won't work for you, and you have to work through all the ideas we've talked about so you can have a little bit more control over your pain, so it doesn't overwhelm you and you have that little bit more control over your pain and therefore over your life. Because never lose that faith in yourself. And this is why spirituality is so important. Connecting to that much deeper spiritual essence that's still there, even though you may be restricted in your movements, even though life may be extremely difficult for you, you may be bedbound, you may be suffering with extremities, that spiritual energy is still there. And being the observer, and if you listen to the long form or listen to the Shen meditation, that connects to your spirituality, that you can manage this perhaps a little better, perhaps a little bit more successful. And then we're on the road where you're gaining a little bit more control.
Thank you, David. And as I say, I will put a link in the show notes to that Becoming the Observer guided meditation, as well as the Shen guided meditation and our Shen video teaching playlist, so you can learn more about that concept of the spiritual self, the higher self, the authentic self. We really hope you have enjoyed and benefited from this teaching. Please do let us know and perhaps share it with someone else who you think it may also help. David works every week with clients all over the world on exactly these sorts of issues. If you'd like to learn more about David's one-to-one consultations, I will also put a link in the show notes to those as well. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new long-form teachings every week, as well as 2 midweek short snippets of video wisdom. So do subscribe. We look forward to sharing with you again very soon. Bye-bye.